house insurance. Do it face to face.
Buy to let, thatched, commercial. We're your high street insurance brokers for all types of insurance. Avoid faceless internet firms.
Hi House Insurance, do it face to face.
See Neil and the friendly team at High Street Selsey.
Hi House Insurance, do it face to face.
Or call Selsey 606 552.
Hello, this is Selsey Internet Radio. Welcome to our latest podcast. My name is Emma Cawley, and today I will be making all the links in between the interviews and other bits and pieces we have for you to listen to. Firstly, we have an interview by John Pilgrim. He's talking to Pastor Bob Arnold, who is preparing to retire from the Selsey East Beach Evangelical Church. Over to you, John.
This is John Pilgrim for Selsey Internet Radio. There are 4 churches in Selsey, 2 in the High Street, 1 in Church Road and 1 at East Beach, or to be precise, in Baronsfield Place, which is near the East Beach Parade of Shops. And the pastor for the last 15 years at East Beach Evangelical Church is Bob Arnold, and he's leaving at the end of this month. So first of all, Bob, how have you enjoyed your 15 years in Selsey?
I've thoroughly enjoyed the past 15 years. It did take me a little while to settle into the pace of life in Selsey, but the friendliness and the laid-back attitude of the people in Selsey has just been absolutely superb. My problem now is I've got to move to another part of the country and I've got to get used to traffic once again.
So, where did you come from originally?
Originally I'm from Falkirk in Scotland, but I came through a rather convoluted way through the south of Manchester, through living over in Poole in Bournemouth, and eventually ending up here.
Have you always been a minister?
No, only for the past 15 years. Prior to that, I was in quasi-banking with 2 major companies who issue credit cards.
Okay. What decided you to become a minister?
I think the fact that I became redundant and didn't necessarily want to go back into the place that I'd been. I felt the time had come for a change of career, and the suggestion was made to me that I should go to Bible college and take a theology degree. This I did, and that's how I ended up here.
You went to Moorlands, didn't you?
Moorlands College, which is just outside Bournemouth, which is a small independent college, but which is ratified by the University of Gloucester.
Okay. And your first pastorate was at East Beach Church?
Was at East Beach Church.
Was it something of a shock?
Yes. Complete shock.
What? Selsey? Being a pastor?
Selsey, being a pastor, there was a whole combination of things that became different in my life, and therefore, it was a complete makeover.
My wife and I came to live in Selsey in 1970, and for the first 2 years my wife hated every minute of it. Subsequently, when I decided that we should move somewhere else, she was the one who refused to go. What was your experience in the first 2 years?
Yes, I think very much the same. I think coming from a big city, having been a big sort of city boy all my life, just the laid-back attitude sort of got to me at first. I'm convinced that people of Selsey could teach the Spanish something about the word mañana. But the problem now is that I've become one of them. I've become naturalized, and I just love it now.
Okay. How has the church grown since you've been here?
Well, I think the church has grown in 2 ways. First of all, it has certainly grown numerically. There are some Sundays where we are basically full to the rafters. But it's also grown spiritually with the advantage of having a full-time minister for 15 years who has been able to open up the Word of God and to show people how the Bible has a relevance for 2013 or whatever year that you happen to be living in.
If you read many sections of the media, you would probably form the opinion that Christianity is irrelevant now. What do you think about that?
I think the media has got a thing about Christianity. It's always easy to report dropping numbers. I find it interesting to note that over the past 10 years, the number of people attending church has dropped by something in the region of about 6%. In the same period, the number of people belonging to the various political parties has dropped by about 30%. But we don't get an awful lot of reporting of that in the media. The church in the UK is not as good and as strong as it should be, but the church worldwide is growing at a remarkable rate and will continue to do so.
Perhaps a difficult question for you. I was brought up in a generation where we believed that the two centres of any small rural community was the pub and the church. And the church. I have noticed, and perhaps you have noticed as well, that the success of the pub depends largely on the character and personality of the landlord. Do you think that applies to the minister of church?
No, I think we've got to be very careful that we don't get ourselves into a scenario where we become worshippers of the minister or the priest or the pastor. The centre of any church is Jesus Christ, and if he is surpassed by anybody else, then that church is in difficulty. As long as Christ is the centre, the church will grow.
Okay. Do you think that Christians in the UK are being marginalised?
I think Christians have always been marginalised. Ever since the church was formed back after the day of Pentecost, within a couple of weeks, the Apostle James had been executed, the Apostle Peter had been put in prison, and within a number of years the entire Christian population of Jerusalem had been driven out of the city and had been forced to flee to all parts of the known world at that time. Wherever you go in the world, Christians are persecuted. And that should not be a surprise, because Jesus said in his final words to his disciples, "As the world has hated me, so it will also hate you." So let's not be surprised. It's only what God had planned.
Do you think that the media and perhaps the government is irresponsible when they bring actions or allow people to be dismissed because they're wearing the sign of Jesus in the form of a cross?
I think we've got to be very careful that we don't pick on one particular case or another. There are certain areas where regulations state that you're not allowed to wear any jewellery, and therefore, as Christians, although we would want to wear a cross, sometimes it is wiser perhaps to obey the laws of the company we're working for. It's not the wearing of a cross that makes you a Christian. I like to wear a cross, I have one on most of my jackets, but it's the life you lead and the way that you behave and the way that you treat other people that will tell the world that you're a Christian.
What are you going to miss most about your work in East Beach Church?
I suppose the demands of the job will be the thing that I'll miss. Not having a regular Sunday service to lead, not having regular people to visit, not having regular tasks to do, but I am fairly certain that my wife has got plans to fill my time with regular work, which will keep me from missing Selsey too much.
Has the church chosen your replacement yet?
Not yet, but there are a number of moves afoot, and I'm fairly certain that the right man will be in position in the not too distant future.
What advice would you give him?
be your own man. There's nothing else you can be. You know, you're in the position because God called you to be it, and just do what God calls you to do rather than do what people would have you do.
Finally, you've been a shepherd of a flock for some time. During that time, what do you consider to have been your most outstanding achievement?
I don't think that there is any one thing that I would call as an outstanding achievement. I think what I have achieved is the building up and the strengthening of the church. That hasn't happened in a overnight fashion. It's been a slow process, but I know that I leave the church in good health and ready to accept the next man who comes to take over as pastor.
Do you think the church will manage quite well without you during the period of interregnum?
I have no reason to doubt that, because remember again, this is not my church, it's not the leader's church, it is God's church, and God has said that he will build his church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it.
Finally, there are certain churches that are doing exceptionally well in the United Kingdom. Why do you think that is?
I think I have already answered that question in saying that any church that puts Jesus Christ right at the centre of all its activities, its teaching and its understanding, they will be blessed. God has promised that he will bless the preaching of his word, and where God's word is preached faithfully, then blessing will follow.
Bob, we just wish you the best of luck in the future, and we hope that you'll come back and visit us at Selsey from time to time.
If that's an invitation, then I accept.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Very interesting interview with Pastor Bob Arnold, and we wish him all the best in his retirement. Now we've got another interview. This time it's with Selsey Community Warden Carol McClung, and she's speaking to Bob Arnold about all the diverse things that she does in her job. Over to you, Bob.
Hello, this is Bob Arnold, and today I'm with Carol McClung, possibly better known to you as Selsey's Community Warden. Hello, Carol.
Hello.
Now, many of our listeners will have seen your van out and about in the community, but few will know the variety of daily activities you get up to. Tell me a little bit about your role.
Well, it is, as you say, a very varied role. I never know quite what I'm going to be doing when I get here in the morning. Could be anything. I could be litter picking 1 minute and then trying to calm a child while I'm finding his mother later on. So it could be absolutely anything. I do all sorts of things with the community. You like to see me at community events, and I work quite a lot with the schools.
Right.
I'm going to be doing some cyber bullying training with the primary schools in October. I've done loads and loads of youth projects. While I've been a warden, I have plans to do quite a few more now. Working with the vulnerable people in the community is quite an important part of my job. There are quite a lot in Selsey, and it could be someone's come up to me and said, this lady's living on her own, she needs a little bit of support. So I do that kind of thing. But patrolling really is the mainstay of the job. Out in the community, I can talk to people, I can meet all sorts of different people. It's nice to talk to the children while I'm out, get to know them. Then people get the opportunity to tell me their problems and anything that they'd like me to deal with.
So it's high visibility, people then feel a bit reassured because you're there, and I guess that's one of the ways in which you get told about issues and problems, because people see you about and let's have a chat with them.
Absolutely, yeah. While I'm about, people think, I knew I meant to talk to somebody about that, and come up and tell me.
So I guess your day is probably one of the most varied days that you could have in any job, and I guess also you're dealing with all age ranges, all types of people, all sorts of problems. So It really couldn't be more varied, could it?
It couldn't, no, it could literally be absolutely anything. Antisocial behaviour is another aspect of my job, low-level stuff. So, you know, children being noisy and irritating the neighbours and things like that. And generally, I think if people realise just what the effect of their behaviour is having on the complainant, then they tend to settle it down a bit. I try not to be too heavy-handed, unless I absolutely have to, and then I can be. And I can also ask for assistance from the PCSOs or the police, who are brilliant down here. I have a really good working relationship with them, so that's quite nice to be able to go to them if I need to.
And that's a key point, isn't it, that you're not the police, you don't have the same powers as them.
Absolutely.
But you're like the first point of contact, perhaps, where there is an issue in the community.
Yes, definitely.
And probably some challenges arise out of that.
People quite often come to tell me things, criminal things, whereas they don't want to go straight to the police. In which case, obviously, I can pass that all on. I think they don't quite see me as official enough, and it works really well.
Good. So what would you say gives you the most satisfaction across all the sort of things you do?
I think that the varied job is nice. I like doing different things all the time. It's lovely, and I like meeting people. I like chatting. I've always liked chatting. It gives me the opportunity to do it. It's just generally a very nice job.
So one of the things you meet in your daily routine, if there is a routine, virtually every day is probably problems. But it must be quite satisfying in that you could quite easily, I would think, in many of those circumstances, bring solutions which then you go home at the end of the day saying, that's good, I sorted that out.
Yeah, definitely. At least there is quite a lot of job satisfaction when you can do that, even if it's something quite small. It might be someone's been worrying about it for a long time and didn't know who to tell.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd really quite like to get out to the community, the fact that if they don't know what to do with a problem, they can contact me. If I know how to sort it, I will. If I don't know, the chances are I'll know where to point them. So it's worth them contacting me with pretty much anything.
So, at the end of the day, you work for the community, you provide help and support for them, you get things done for them, but there must be a two-way process here whereby you welcome some support and help from them.
Definitely.
How can that come about?
I think mostly what I'd like to say is if they've got anything they'd like to talk to me about, please don't just worry about it. Please come and tell me about it, come and report it to me. Even if it's something they think I won't be interested in. I'm absolutely going to be interested in anything at all. I'm quite happy to talk to them about whatever they want.
So there's no boundaries at all?
No, absolutely not. No, and like I said, if I can't help them with the problem, I'm pretty sure that I'll know where to point them.
And I guess you've got supporting you, well, we already mentioned the police, but you've got a number of other ports of call you can go to, even if you can't resolve the problem. You, as you said earlier, you know someone who can or can help too. So.
Definitely. Yeah. We work with all the housing associations, the police, as we said earlier, West Sussex Fire and Rescue, social services, all the area councils. There are loads and loads of people that I can go to for some help with anything. So.
Now your area just covers Selsey?
Yes, just Selsey.
Okay, so it's within that domain. If somebody outside of Selsey has a problem, then presumably there's some other arrangement, say in Siddlesham or whatever, but if people are in Selsey that are listening to this programme, then that's the arrangement. If they've got something that they want some advice and support and help on, then give you a call and you'll do whatever you can.
Definitely.
Now, where does your patrol take you on a daily basis?
All over Selsey. I could be down by the windmill at Bun Leisures, where I was a couple of Sundays ago, trying to rescue a parrot from the top of the windmill. Up the high street, I like to do visible patrols in the high street quite often. That's where everybody ends up during their day, so it's nice for people to see me there. I do the parks and the pond and the seafront, so yeah, I could be anywhere.
So I guess there are some, shall we say, known areas where you will patrol more regularly.
Yes, there are a few roads that I patrol more regularly, and there tend to be quite a lot of youngish children playing in the street. The East Beach skate park, I'm there quite a lot, again because there's quite a lot of people there. We do at the moment have a dog issue in Selsey, so there are dog damage and dog fouling and things like that. That's something I'm trying to work on. So yeah, pretty much anything and anywhere.
Superb. Well, I wish you the best of luck in your job, and I know it's a difficult job, but I think you do it admirably well from what I've seen of you in the community, so keep up the good work.
I will, thank you very much. I'd like to perhaps add my phone number.
Yes, do. Yes.
Which is, if you'd like to contact me on my mobile, on 07768 206 974. I tend to keep my mobile on all the time, so I'll get back to you.
Superb. Thank you, Carol. That number once again is 07768 206 974 if you wish to speak to Carol McClung, who is the Community Warden for Selsey. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Bob and Carol. Great interview. Now we've got another short story by our fabulous local author, Ellis Berg. Over to you, Ellis.
Accident in a Selsey household. Accident. I don't believe it. His eyes opened with a click, or to be precise, to a click. I was watching that, he protested. You're not now, she said. And what's more, you weren't anyway unless you watched through your eyelids. He hated the way she stood. Backs of hands on hips, arms akimbo. Funny word that, akimbo, he thought. I must look it up. Her voice faded away as he turned down the volume in his ears. I wonder if it's in Chambers. Old joke. Do you read Chambers? No, only teacups. The volume slowly turned up again. And I suppose you'll spend the rest of the week doing nothing while I do the rest. Lazy pig. She left the room, mumbling. He switched on the programme again, hoping he'd be able to pick up the plot. Somehow he doubted it. He wasn't very good at following plots. Detective stories floored him completely, even Agatha Christie's. He mourned the passing of Betty Hill. Now there was somebody he could follow, especially the chase at the end. He ran one in the video of his mind, using short bursts of memory. He gave up the effort. The sight of Victor Meldrew, buried up to his neck in his flower bed, put Betty Hill out of his mind. He listened to the Edinburgh Morningside accents of the husband and wife, putting a neat end to the episode, and waited for the next entertainment of the evening. He zapped discontentedly, hoping for something to exercise his mind. An advertisement begged him to smoke a cigar. Another beseeched him to keep his hands as soft as his face. He ran his hands over the two-day-old stubble and doubted if it would work. He thought about the next morning, when he would be obliged to shave and wear fresh clothes for a job interview, when she would see that he got up and left the house on time. He rehearsed his reasons for being turned down, anticipating her anger and arguments and probing questions, and her assertions that he had done his best to make sure he didn't get the job. Now, there she was definitely in the wrong. These people weren't fools. They could see perfectly well that he wouldn't be happy in charge of anything. No, not even a broom, I suppose. You could get a job street sweeping, but you couldn't manage the bends in the roads. His mind continued to drift. The third part of a serial he hadn't been following, another detective thriller, was some halfway through. Some character addressed another as Commander, and he wondered if he were in the Navy or the police. He tried to work out if they were equivalent ranks, and by the time he came to a decision, they weren't, the episode had finished and the advertisements had started again. "I'm going to bed now, you can do as you like." "Thank you, I shan't be long." He sat on the side of his bed, trying to remember what it was like before she got rid of the double and bought twins. One shoe lay on its side, the other waited on the foot resting across his thigh. He looked at the shoes and noticed he needed to give them a polish. Would they notice? He tried to imagine himself sitting in the chairman's position. Would he look at the applicant's feet? Yes, he bloody would. What was the old saying? Look after the extremities. That meant hands, hair and boots. Boots? Now that must have been said a long time ago. You can always tell a gentleman by his boots, he'd read somewhere. Are you going to leave that sock on the floor? And isn't it time you had your shower? Always questions. The alarm clock radio suddenly pierced his ears. The 6 pips and the Radio 4 news. A teacup rattled. He was getting tea in bed. Had he been ill, he wondered? Hurry up and get that tea down you. Don't forget to shave and polish your shoes. And I've put out your appointment details, so don't say I don't do nothing for you. And there's a good hot porridge on the table, and don't let it get cold. He sat gloomily in the bus. He'd had his fare put in his hand as he left the house in good time. She saw to that. The appointment letter was in his inside pocket, and he knew the company office building well. It was easier to go than stay. The receptionist smiled at him. Now that was a bonus. He hadn't been smiled at by a young woman for how long? He could only remember an occasion when he stopped at a zebra crossing and a pretty girl, his wife had said, "Don't kid yourself, it's only because you think you're old and safe." It didn't happen again because his wife took over the driving. He wasn't sorry. He didn't like it anyway. The interview was a shock. Not only were there other applicants, they were all keen and eager, men and women, power-dressed and aggressive. Come in, Mr. Come in, sit down, make yourself comfortable. Good journey." "Yes, thank you, and thank you for seeing me." He remembered the patter from when he used to do the interviewing in the dear dead days of long ago. Thank God he didn't have to do it any more. The usual civil niceties were exchanged. The chairman, rather old for today's fashionable executives, fumbled with the papers. "Now, what do you know about our company?" Time wasting, he thought. He'd known about this company for years. He knew what to say. "Now, we are looking for..." The volume control took over. He had no need to listen. He'd used all of it in his time. "And you seem to have the experience we're looking for. However, we are obliged to interview the other candidates, and we'd be very glad if you would wait until the procedures are finished. Thank you." As the opposition, as he now mentally classed them, filed in and out, he began to wonder if he could do the work required. There were new regulations in place, new ways of addressing staff, new ways of being addressed, come to that. And for what? Just to buy materials, make a product, and sell it to a public who didn't know what they wanted until an advertisement told them they did. He felt the whole thing was utterly pointless. Why bother? The job was offered, and he accepted it. It was easier than explaining why he didn't really want it. The chairman offered his hand and welcomed him aboard. He walked past the receptionist and out into the street. The stroke came while he was putting his key in the front door. His wife had heard the sound because she was nerving herself for what she feared would be a confrontation, as she accused him of not trying, and he denied it. There would be the usual half-truths and downright self-delusions, and her noisy tears behind the firmly closed bedroom doors, or so she had thought. This time it was different. On the way to the hospital, she had a moment of gallows humour. "You're going to get better." This was to her prostrate, unconscious husband. "You're going to get fit and well, and then I'm going to kill you." His first impression on waking was that he was still in bed, and that the day had not yet begun. His second was that his wife was using a different plug-in house deodorant, one that smelt of hospitals. His third impression was that he was in hospital, in bed, and people in all sorts of untidy clothes were looking at him. A young woman in a blue frock said she was his nurse for the time being, and would he like to see his wife. He tried to speak, and only a sort of groan came forth. He thought, "This is dream paralysis, and I'll wake up soon." The nurse said, "Blink if you want to see her." He blinked. Why not, he thought. She sat by his bed, clutching and then waving a bag. It looked like a gift of grapes. "I expect you know you're going to be here for a long time. The doctors say you've had quite a severe stroke, but you'll recover if you do all the things..." Her voice trailed away, as if she knew he couldn't answer. More likely wouldn't, she thought. For once there was no arguing, nothing to argue about. She stood up, folded her arms, unfolded them, walked over to the window, looked out, turned round and faced him again. "Well, I can't be standing around here all day. I'll be in tomorrow." Days passed. Small gain shown in his movements. He began to speak well enough for experienced staff to understand him. Everything was done for him. He was completely content. The chaplain visited him and asked if there was anything he wanted. While he was thinking, his wife came into the ward. "Hello, Padre," she said. "Nice to see you again." This was a new one. He had no idea she and the chaplain had met. Did that mean he was worse than he'd thought? "I knew the Padre years ago," she said. "He used to visit WI when I was a member." The two of them sat down companionably near the foot of his bed and conversed in low tones, quite ignoring their patient. Not that he cared. He found visiting times a strain. No, correction, he found them a bore. He had to be honest. He couldn't see the point of the aimless conversation with visitors. He noticed the Padre and his wife glancing at him almost furtively. "Well, we know who they're talking about, don't we? Us, that's who." He listened. He heard the word sloth being used. Then, "Axidy would be more precise, which is a pity." What did he mean, Axidy is a pity? Good word, Axidy. He must look it up sometime, if he could be bothered.
Now for our What's On in Selsey. Thursday the 22nd of August, Family Festival Zumba. It's 5:30 to 6:15 at the Selsey Centre. A taster session for all the family. Admission is free. There's also a fashion show and sale. Again at the Selsey Centre, 7 till 9 o'clock. Admission £2 per adult. Children up to the age of 16 are free. They're backed by popular demand. A local fashion show with new and used clothes, and all modelled by local residents. Friday the 23rd of August, U3A have an open meeting. It's open to all. Admission is free, and it's 2 o'clock at the Selsey Centre. In the evening of Friday the 23rd of August, there's an evening with the West Sussex Guitar Club. They present an evening dedicated to the art of the classical guitar. It's again at the Selsey Centre, 7:30 to 9:30. Tickets are £7. Children are free. Also includes refreshments. Friday the 23rd and Saturday the 24th of August. Powder your face before you die. Life goes on. It's the long-awaited follow-up to last year's murder mystery performance, and it's being performed by the prima donnas. Again, you will be asked to exercise those little grey cells to help work out who the ruthless murderer is. Doors open at 7 o'clock. Performance starts at 7:30 in Selsey Town Hall. Tickets on the door are £5.50, and that includes refreshments. Saturday the 24th and Monday the 26th of August, Brentford Wildlife Hospital Summer Fair and Open Weekend. They have slideshows, games, giant book sale and much, much more. Go along and meet all the little residents, little animals and birds, and each day it will be 10 o'clock till 4 o'clock, and that's Cow Lane, Siddlesham. Saturday the 24th and Sunday the 25th of August, Selsey Camera Club have their annual members exhibition. It's 10 till 4 each day. The exhibition hall in Selsey Town Hall. Entrance is £1 for adults, children under 16 go free, and they have lots of lovely photographs for you to go and look at, and some of their members will be there to answer any questions. Sunday the 25th and Monday the 26th of August, Selsey Tattoo Studio have an art exhibition. It's at Selsey Town Hall. Sunday is 2 till 6, Monday is 1 till 5, and they have an alternative collection of art from the East and beyond with the tattoo influence. They will also be having a raffle. On to the actual carnival. On Sunday the 25th of August is the carnival procession. It's going to leave the recreation ground in School Lane at 3 o'clock. So go along, stand at the edge of the road and wave to everybody as they go by. On Monday the 26th of August, there's a giant car boot sale at the recreation ground behind my gyms. Vendors need to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning. Pictures prices are £7 per car. Cars and trailers, vans and transit vans are £10. Commercial traders are £20, and it opens to the public at 8:30 a.m. If you'd like any more information, you'll pop into Selsey Information Exchange Shop and Penny Lane Arcade, and they'll be happy to help you with anything you need to know about what's going on in Selsey. Well, that's what's on for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll speak to you again soon.